From the marbled halls of power to the marbled hardscrabble streets of America, I'm Tom LoBianco, your host today. Welcome to the show. It's almost the weekend, which means it's almost time to celebrate America's 250th anniversary by remembering why we are Americans. We don't like monarchs. Now, there are some foreigners around from South Africa, you name it, some weird tech people, some dude named Curtis Yarvin with a big old neck and no chin. I don't know how that happened. There's no amount of New York Times airbrushing that can fix that one. They really do like monarchs. And you know what? That is their right to like them because we don't have monarchs. If we did, well, maybe they wouldn't be allowed to talk like that. That's what used to happen 250 years ago. So we're going to be talking about the No Kings protest just a little bit. All right. And if you guys are going down there, I got some tips for you. You're going, I say going down there, DC, going around everywhere, wherever you are, going up there, going out there, going east, going west. It's all over the country. Coming up in a little bit on the show, I'm going to be having on a friend from the Heartland. He has some very surprising poll numbers on how people are reacting to what's going on around here. A reminder, you can always find me at tom24site.news. Make sure to drop a note, drop an email in. And if you have anything you'd like to see, anything you'd like me to cover, hit me up. We are live on Substack right now every day, noon Eastern time, and on YouTube. And also, you drop comments in. We had a blast yesterday, a lot of fun with Cali Bar. Gene Elvey, man, on fire, incredible. Lindsay Hake, I don't know if you're in there right now. I can't see it, but if you are, I think you might have a little bit of fun with this one. So drop your notes in, drop your comments in. Ian Walters is on the board, and he'll be gathering those up. Let's do before we hop to our interview. Let's do a quick rundown of the news. First off, before we hit the heavy stuff, I want to talk about a great journalist. Somebody passed away recently. NPR's Susan Stamberg. Okay. Here's David Falkenflik, great reporter. Headline at NPR, and just a really wonderful. I was listening to it this morning on WAMU here in DC. A wonderful memorial, radio memorial for her. Headline: NPR founding mother Susan Stamberg has died. Byline: David Falkenflik. Susan Stamberg, an original National Public Radio staffer who went on to become the first U.S. woman to anchor a nightly national news program, died Thursday at the age of 87. Few figures have informed the sensibility of NPR more than Stamberg. Colleagues considered her a mentor, a matchmaker, a founding mother, always tough and always true to herself. Quote, a true humanitarian, she believed in the power of great journalism, Stamberg's son Josh said in the statement. Her life's work was connection through ideas and culture. In addition to her son, Stamberg is survived by granddaughters Vivian and Lena. NPR host Scott Simon contended that she was the first real human being to host a regular evening newscast. Stamberg even knit while sitting in front of the microphone at All Things Considered. That's a great idea. Man, I need a fidget spinner. Stamberg's stories, because see, here she is in death, still inspiring. Stamberg's stories and segments over the decades span the human experience, from examining matters of state to illuminating pointillist details of artistic achievement. She would be recognized by her peers with honors from the National Radio Hall of Fame, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and more. She retired in September. I gotta tell you guys, I got the news alert yesterday evening, and it really was. Some people are built for their careers because they love it. It's not work if you love it; it's joy. And I remember listening to the radio a couple months ago when they announced her retirement, and she did an interview with it's Ari. Who used to be on NPR. I think he's leaving as well. And I just, when I saw that, and I was like, man, that was her life. And she was so good at it. R.I.P. Susan Stamberg. Rest in power. All right, heavy news. John Bolton indicted. This is from NBC News. By the way, for folks who don't know, here comes the Baltimore lilt because there's some real reporting. Yeah, I remember years ago when Roger Stone got all worked up because CNN cameras caught him getting nabbed by the feds for his crimes. And he's, deep state, da 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 da, blah, 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 something, something, da da da, deep state. Or what it really was is good fucking journalism. That's some good goddamn reporting. That's what it is. You guys don't see this. I see it behind the scenes, and here I'll tip you off on it. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people doing stakeouts, knowing where things will likely happen. Yeah, sure. Sometimes we get tips that are going on, but more often with these things, it requires a lot of hustle and a lot of staff. And that is how NBC saw John Bolton departing his house in Bethesda, Maryland, not too far from here, 24 State News headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, to turn himself in. Headline: John Bolton surrenders to authorities after federal indictment and classified information probe. This is at NBC. The former Trump national, that was a slip, Trump national security advisor, sorry, is making his initial court appearance on federal charges that allege he mishandled classified information. Man, I've never heard of anybody mishandling classified information. Kind of shocks you, doesn't it? Byline: Michael Koznar, Chloe Atkins, Victoria Ebner, Peter Alexander, and Rebecca Shabbat. Dateline: Washington. John Bolton, who served as Trump's NSA during his first term, surrendered to authorities Friday after he was indicted by a federal grand jury on charges he allegedly mishandled classified information. He was seen by NBC News leaving his home in Bethesda in a black SUV Friday. He entered the district courthouse in Greenbelt, Maryland, just after 8:30 a.m. for his initial court appearance. Prosecutors have been investigating whether Bolton improperly retained classified materials after he left the first Trump administration. He is charged with 8 counts of transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of unlawful retention of that information. The indictment, returned by a grand jury in the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland, alleges Bolton transmitted national defense information using personal email or messaging application to send sensitive documents classified as top secret. The documents allegedly revealed intelligence about future attacks, foreign adversaries, and foreign policy relations. The indictment also alleges that Bolton illegally retained documents containing national defense information within his home. Again, I wonder where we've heard about that before. These documents included intelligence on an adversary's leaders as well as information revealing sources and collections used to obtain statements on a foreign adversary. Bolton denied any wrongdoing in a statement Thursday and said the charges were politically motivated. He said Trump sought, quote, retribution against him because his first term in the White House and continued after he tried to block publication of Bolton's book before the 2020 election. Actually, you know what? I might have it here underneath of this camera. For a long time, I actually used the book, which I bought a copy of a little while ago to to elevate the camera properly. That and the Pence memoir. I mean, there's 2 very powerful memoirs lifting up independent journalism right now. I keep thinking about, and there was a funny video that George Conway, former longtime conservative lawyer, activist, um, man about the movement, and now never Trump leader, he put out a video talking about what to do at the No Kings protest, how to stay safe while you're down there. Wear yellow. That is the color of the movement against kings and monarchs. 250 years strong. And he held up a yellow bag of kava, a carry-out bag, and filled it with cash. And you might even think it was $50,000 worth of cash, potentially to a nice director to obtain favorable contracts. Some might call that a bribe. All of this reminds me, I laugh about this stuff because it is deadly serious what's happening. And There are some things which we would consider normal policy debates, not authoritarian. If you want to have a battle over access to abortion, you want to talk about who gets taxed for what and how much. Those are all normal policy debates. And our good and great founders created this American system specifically so that we could have those debates without having arbitrary determinations by monarchs, allegedly mandated by God. Allegedly. We know that's not the case, obviously. Um, Not everybody knows that, but most of us do. Um, it reminds me a lot of, I believe it was the Bolivian dictator, Oscar Benavides back in the 30s, who made this statement: "For my friends, everything; for everyone else, the law." That is how Trump is behaving. That's how he is actually weaponized, to borrow a phrase he likes to use so much, weaponized the Justice Department in a way really not seen since Hoover. Um, and again, just for context, this is not without precedent in American history, but we also need to call it what it is. And of course, Trump himself uh, fled the White House at the end of his first term with boxes upon boxes of national security secrets. And if you want to talk about an unsecure location, how about his gilded bathroom down at the Florida Country Club? All right. Rex Early, the old Indiana Republican Party chair years ago, used to say there's hypocrisy and then there's hypocrisy. Well, we've got a lot of the latter these days. Um, I was going to read this Matt LaBash piece, but I'll have to put it in the newsletter. We're going to be getting to our guest here in a second. Real quick, poll numbers on the New York City mayor's race. This is interesting, and it's from Fox News. I'll tell you, the Fox News division, separate from the buffoons on the opinion panels and the kind of sort of late night comics, the White House approved late night comics they have over there. The news division is very good. Okay. You might not like everything that they report, but they do a good job with it. And as somebody who's worked in broadcast before, the news division is separate from the opinionators and the fake comics. Fox News poll: Mamdani maintains a significant lead in New York City mayoral race. Voters see Mamdani, Cuomo as strong leaders, but more say Mamdani will bring needed change. By Victoria Ballara, Fox News. Let's just run through the numbers real quick. Registered, and this is interesting, actually. We're going to be talking a little bit more about polling here in just a few minutes with my next guest. Registered voters and likely voters here on the poll, very closely tracking. Now, that's very important because, as we know, right, a registered your RV, a registered voter is a much larger pool to work from. Now, the question of whether they show up is a wholly different question, which is why likely voters, to the extent you can model that properly, really is the better determinant. But this is very fascinating. Mamdani favored 49% by registered and 52% by likely in the latest poll. Curtis Sliwa, longtime Republican operative, kind of a perennial candidate. For those of you in the DMV, he's like the Robin Frick of New York politics. For all you MoCo heads, you know exactly who I'm talking about. A legendary gadfly. Sliwa pulling probably the best numbers he's ever seen: 13% and 14%. Andrew Cuomo now running as an independent, 28% in both polls. And Eric Adams, he of the Turkish Golden Bars, and very dubious, very dubious plea deal. Plea deal just with the Trump politicized Justice Department, who's no longer running. What a shame. 3% and 2%. That's actually pretty surprising in this poll. All right, guys, I'm Tom LoBianco. Drop a note, Tom at 24site.news. Before I bring on my next guest, I want to read through something real quick. Um, Oh, and do catch us every day at noon on Substack and YouTube, and catch the Encore Political Voices Network at 8 p.m. Headline: Indiana Capitol Chronicle. I think some of you guys knew where I was going with this. Headline: New Indiana poll shows Hoosiers losing faith in both parties and their own leaders. Braun and Morales have low favorability. Byline: Casey Smith. Most Indiana voters said the state is on the wrong track and expressed growing frustration with their political choices, including unfavorable views of top elected officials in both major parties, according to a new statewide poll released Tuesday. The survey of 604 registered voters conducted by North Star Opinion Research on behalf of Independent Indiana, we're going to be hearing more about them here in just a second, shows President Donald Trump, Governor Mike Braun, and Secretary of State Diego Morales with negative favorability ratings. This is really surprising. Trump is underwater. This is deep red Indiana. Well, allegedly. 42% favor him, 49% unfavorable. Mike Braun is I don't know. Maybe he needs an oxygen tank. 24% favorable, 43% unfavorable, 22% no opinion, 11% never heard of him. This other guy, if you're not from Indiana, you've probably never heard of him, but I suspect you will be hearing a lot more about him in the coming months. Diego Morales, Secretary of State, and very ambitious. Morales favorably viewed by 5%, 17% unfavorable. That's a ratio of 1 to 3, it looks like there. 21% no opinion, 57% never heard of them. I suspect that 57% number is going to be changing quite a bit. But the big takeaway here from Indiana Capitol Chronicle and the Independent Indiana Survey: Hoosiers don't like either party right now. To tell us more about that, I want to bring on Nathan Gotsch. He's the executive director of Independent Indiana. Nathan, how's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Looks like, is your video frozen there?
It may be. I am talking. You guys can probably hear me. You may not be able to see me.
We
Let me see if
have
I
a.
can. Is there a way that we can refresh this? You can hear me, right, Tom?
I hear you. Let me see
Yeah.
if we can. I'll remove you from the stage and add you. Hold tight. We're gonna wait for Nathan to reconnect there. Indiana, God love it. Not always the greatest internet connections, and if you've covered campaigns out there, not unlike our interview yesterday with Callie Barr, there are places where there is no internet. Here we go. Let's see if we can bring back Nathan. Is Nathan moving? There he is.
All right.
Hey, Nathan, what's up, man?
Sorry about that, Tom. Yes, from out here in the heartland, where we just got internet about 5 minutes ago. Very excited to join you.
Congratulations. Welcome to
Thank
the
you.
1990s.
Yeah, it's great to be here. In fact, I just got a CD in the mail from this company called America Online. So really excited to get that into my my Packard Bell and see if we can get going.
So how many minutes we got? Did you purchase extra minutes for this one?
Oh, I didn't know that we had to pay by the minute. I'm new to all this.
We all might be going back to flip phones, frankly. I'm kind of tempted to do it. I know a lot of people are enjoying those.
Yeah, we removed the phones from schools, and the rest of us have to go back to America Online on our desktop. Probably would actually be better for all of our sanity if we couldn't get all these notifications and updates and pings on our phones in our pockets at all time of the day and night.
So I'll tell you, man, some things are just not worthy news alerts. We just don't need to know about them.
Yeah,
but
not our poll.
interesting.
Not our poll.
Not the Independent Indiana poll. If you're tuned in every day here on Tom LoBianco Reports, this is 30 minutes of sanity. We don't do the fucking alerts around here. We only do shit that matters. And yes, I'm cursing again. We'll keep it clean, though. Keep it clean for the heartland. Nathan, why don't you? So I've known Nathan for a while, but for folks who don't know you, if they're not Hoosiers, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am the executive director of Independent Indiana. That's a new nonpartisan nonprofit organization. And it was formed because we found that actually a lot of independent candidates across the state of Indiana were running for office and winning. at numbers that surprised a lot of people. So I think in the past, people thought of independents as sort of the folks that were maybe too unique, let's say, to get nominated by either of the two major parties. But as we've seen such a shift in our politics the last 10 years or so, that's really changed. And in the state of Indiana, over the last two election cycles, that's 2023 and 2024, nearly 250 independents got on the ballot. And 52% of them won their races. Now, just to give you a sense of how that compares, we ran an analysis of all the races, every partisan race across the state of Indiana during that period. The Republican success rate was 61%, and the Democratic success rate was 35%. So again, independents winning 52% of their races, despite the fact that they have really burdensome signature requirements to get on the ballot that Republicans and Democrats don't have. And also, we are one of only 6 states that still has straight ticket voting. So when you look under the hood and you start talking to some of these independent winners, which I have done, you find that a lot of them are former elected officials who ran in the past and were elected as Republicans or Democrats. And they are now running as independents, sometimes to try to stop an extremist who's gotten the nomination of their party. Sometimes they just think that it would be nice to not have to serve the master of the party boss and only do instead what's in the best interest of their constituents. We've highlighted a couple of those on our website. It's independentindiana.org. And if your audience is curious, I really encourage them to go and watch or at least listen to the event that we did in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago, where we brought 3 of these really outstanding elected officials onto a panel discussion. We recorded it. It's available on YouTube through our website, or you can go find that in our podcast feed. If you just look up Independent Indiana on Spotify or Apple Podcast, you'll be able to see that. It's about 45 minutes. And I think you will be really impressed, as the people who attended the event were, at what it's like to hear politicians who are trying to do a good job and also are not stuck to talking points, but just being honest about what they see, what's going on, and also the opportunity around the state of Indiana to really reach voters who are unhappy with both parties. And that kind of gets back to the poll. The results that we found, a lot of people are unhappy. And even in a state dominated by Republicans in terms of those who are elected, 26% of Republicans say that they think the state is on the wrong track. And in our sample size, only 29% of registered voters right now say that they're Republican. And that compares to 41% who are independents.
Interesting. Wow. What, has it always been that way? I mean, Indiana used to be ruby red.
Yeah, I think that that number is more typically in the 30s when you talk about people self-identifying as Republicans. But you're also going to have independents who are Republican leaners. That's about 15% of the electorate. And when we really dig into that 41%, one of the things that I wanted to find out is where these independents are sort of on the political spectrum. And it's a challenge, right? When you're polling people, you want to ask them if they're an independent. Typically they say, well, do you lean Republican? Do you lean Democrat? Or are you conservative? Are you liberal? I asked our polling firm to ask a different question of those folks. I asked them to ask the respondents who said they were independents, which political leader most represents your views? We asked, is it Donald Trump? Is it Barack Obama? Is it Bernie Sanders? Is it RFK Jr.? Now, we're in Indiana, so we also asked, is it Mitch Daniels? Is it Mike Pence? We asked, is it Pete Buttigieg? And so of that 41% of the independent identifiers in the state of Indiana, 21% said Donald Trump best represented their views. That's a fifth of that 41%. The next highest number was Barack Obama at 18%.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Now, the next number after that, 16%, was Bernie Sanders. 12% was RFK Jr. 6% Mitch Daniels. 3% Mike Pence.
Oh.
So if you add those up, you've got 30% of those people who are Trump, Pence, Mitch Daniels. So those are Republican aligned. I don't know how you'd characterize the RFK Jr. folks. Libertarian, probably, or maybe more skeptical of vaccines, for example. And then you've got 18% Obama. You've got 16% Sanders. And then also 9% of the respondents said Pete Buttigieg best represented their views.
Oh, 18, 16, 34, 9, 40, 43%.
18, 16, and 9 is
Yeah.
the ones that are aligned with Sanders, Obama, or Buttigieg.
Oh, that's fascinating. Interesting. Beating out, and the Republican aligned are what was you'd say 31%? So
21% Trump,
yeah,
6% Mitch Daniels, 3%
9,
Mike Pence.
30. Wow, 41 to 30 over identifying with either party. Well,
Right.
that's fascinating, man. For folks, if you're not from Indiana, not keyed in on the Hoosier land, I actually last week on the show I had on the executive producer of C-SPAN's new show, Ceasefire, Michelle Remillard, and the first two guests, somebody who's not very popular in Indiana, although maybe he should be, Mike Pence, uh, and Rahm Emanuel right next door up in Chicago. And what's funny about this? Because I'd forgotten about this. Because Obama won Indiana. He squeaked it out
In
back in
2008, yes, he did. And in that same election, Mitch Daniels was reelected the Republican governor.
Yes, I love this. It gets to people don't see this. All right, and I used to, when I was in Indiana, and I'd say this about Maryland too, because Maryland's, state I used to cover a lot. People think the top line is just it's either blue or red, but really there's a lot of variation right below the surface. Pence lost a bet to Rahm Emanuel about that 2008 election. You know about this?
I did not, and I'm not surprised that you know more about Mike Pence than I do.
More, and folks, this is why you're here. If you need Mike Pence trivia, and not all of it is trivial, stop on by. Okay, he lost. I was shocked by this. They talked about it on the show last week on Ceasefire on C-SPAN. Really funny. He lost a bet. His kids and Emmanuel's kids were talking. I think it was one of Emmanuel's kids put him on a bet. I think it was like $10 on who would win Indiana. My God, Obama, just astounding. What was it, like 49 to 48%, something like that? I think that was
Yeah, and now if only that bet had been $10 worth of Bitcoin, would have been a little bit higher today. But yeah, apparently it was 10 US dollars. And Mike Pence was not a very popular governor in the state of Indiana when the 2016 election came around. But I have to tell you, Tom, he was nowhere near as low as what Governor Mike Braun's favorables are right now. I mean, these are anemic to the point that people were shocked when we shared them. So you mentioned it. Mike Braun is sitting at 24% favorable with the entire electorate in the state of Indiana. But even among Republicans, his favorable is only 53%. This guy hasn't even been in office for a year. And it's really hard to be that low. Among independents, again, 41% of the electorate in Indiana, his favorable is 15%.
Wow. Is he running for re-election?
There were rumors earlier this year that he was considering running for president in 2028. I think it'd be really, really hard for him to do that, considering where he's at right now. But there has not been a lot of good news coming out of the State House really since he took office, and I think people are tired of the system regardless of who's in charge. But Indiana Republicans have been dominant in that state going back to Mitch Daniels in 2004. And because we have not seen the sort of traditional cycle, the pendulum swing back to Democrats, things have gotten really stale. And you're seeing that even among Republicans in our poll, they're saying, hey, we're not happy with the direction of the state. We're not really happy with the party. And again, considering they control all levels of government, the fact that there are 26% of Republicans who say, yeah, the state's on the wrong track. These numbers are very, very soft. But on the other hand, the Democratic Party's numbers are not any better. And so that's one of the reasons why we formed Independent Indiana is we just want competitive elections back in the state of Indiana. I'd prefer if it happens in my lifetime. But there is, we think, an opportunity here to study these independents, to learn what they're doing well, to provide resources and information for other Hoosiers who are thinking of running as independents now that they know that it's actually not a losing proposition. You've got a better than 50-50 chance, according to the data. It also allows you to bypass our crazy primaries, right? We've got extremists who are controlling the Republican primary and also many of the Democratic primaries. And the other thing that we're doing is we are investing in a study to determine how we can make it more competitive for independents as they start running for these larger and larger races. That we're going to have the results of that in the next few weeks. We're really excited to see what the recommendation is out of that study, and would love to come back on again and tell you about that.
Very cool. Folks, if you're just joining us, we got Nathan Gotsch. He is the executive director of the newly formed Independent Indiana, longtime Indiana political expert up in Fort Wayne. We were actually talking about just hanging out with some of the preschool dads last night down here in suburban DC, and we actually were talking about Fort Wayne of all places. It's is Matt Anthony still up there? The brewery?
He is the one who built the fort back in the 1700s. I don't know whether I don't think he's buried here, but yeah, Fort Wayne is named after General Matt Anthony Wayne, who I can say was definitely not woke.
Shocked, I say. Folks, drop a line. We're on the board here. Ian's here. We're taking comments live, Substack, YouTube. Reminder to like, share, and subscribe if you're with us here, especially over on YouTube. And if you miss it, you can hop in the comments. I do live in the comments, and yes, I beat back a few trolls every now and then. But I have to tell you, the quality of comments has been improving lately. I really enjoy engaging with folks. Jeannie Elby, I see you there. What's up, Jeannie? Hey. And here we go. Oh, Gina Weller. Gina Weller grew up in Indiana. She's now in Oregon. First time on the Substack. Right on. Hey, good to have you here, Gina. I didn't see, I don't know if Lindsay Hake's there. Lindsay shows up a good bit, our friend over at the Indiana State House.
Lindsay and I both write columns for the Indianapolis Business Journal. So if she's on, hello, Lindsay. And it's great to be in the same pages with you once a month.
Hey, I'll tell you, man, IBJ has great coverage and a really great opinion section. My friend Leslie Weidenbetter took it over. It's been a while now, 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. They do incredible reporting. And the Capitol Chronicle, big fan of the Capitol Chronicle, Nikki Kelly, with the story here on Independent Indiana. What do you make of this, though? Because we were talking about this about a week or two ago. And that's why I wanted to have you on to explain this. The unknowns, the no opinions, those are big numbers. And it's frankly, unless you are Mitch Daniels, somebody with walking into the office with already a large national profile, and even Mike Pence, had a big national profile. Unless you're somebody like that, that's really more of the norm in politics and state politics, where people just don't know who they are. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't know the name of the governor. And frankly, that's not terribly surprising. There's no reason they should. I mean, I would argue you should, but that's not abnormal.
Yeah, he's at 11%, never heard of right now. Mike Braun, 22%, no opinion.
Is that I mean, there's room to grow. I feel like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber, right? So you're saying there's a chance. It seems like there's room to grow there. Maybe he could get out from being underwater. What do you think?
Well, look, let's just say he took that 22% no opinion and was able to get all of them to have a favorable opinion of him, which I think is probably unlikely. Let's maybe cut that in half. Let's say he can get 11% of those people to do that. He's still only at 35% favorable after that.
Wow. What's driving this?
I think we had a big debate about property tax reform earlier this year, and that ended up there's kind of a Frankenstein of a bill that ended up getting passed through the General Assembly. We had mayors, we had county commissioners of both political parties come down to the State House and testify and say, hey, this is a bad bill. This is not good. Essentially what they did is they gave Hoosiers a few $100s worth of property tax relief a couple years down the road. And in exchange for that, they basically took away millions of dollars from these local taxing districts. And they said, in return, we're going to give you the power to raise local income taxes. But what's going to end up happening is these local, these townships and these cities, these towns, these counties, they're going to have to raise taxes far beyond what the savings was. And even privately, Republican state legislators have acknowledged to me this was a bad bill. We need to go back in and fix that. But they said, and this is what they told some of the mayors who came down to try to stop it. They said, "Look, we have to get Governor Braun a win because he's been so far out front on this." That's not how good policy is made. When you're trying to make the governor look good instead of do what's best for the constituents, I don't think that's what our founding fathers had in mind when they were working through that constitutional convention. And frankly, I think that they would be very, very disappointed in how we have been stewards of the democracy that they gave us. Again, that's partly why we formed our organization, because when you don't have competitive general elections, you end up with one party doing things that are in the best interest of the party, not of the people. Your audience may also know that there's a debate right now on whether the Indiana General Assembly is going to go back into session to redistrict, to redraw their maps, which right now are 7-2 Republican Democrat, to try to be 9-0 Republican. In fact, I can tell you, I don't know if I guess this is exclusive. There was a conference call that a certain leader of the National Republican Party was on with Indiana state senators earlier today. And I'll let you fill in the blanks on who you think that national leader was. Just to give you some context, last week, Vice President J.D. Vance came to talk to the caucus in person. And so I can tell you it wasn't J.D. Vance who was on that call. There are a lot of people who think that Governor Braun will be calling the special session perhaps as soon as today. I don't know for a fact whether that's going to happen, but I can tell you that they do not have the votes inside the Indiana State Senate. And I think they've been pushing and pushing and pushing, but they have not been very persuasive. And so now what I'm hearing is the governor is going to call the special session anyway without the votes, which I don't think is going to do a whole lot for his favorable rating. Again, this feels like a very poorly planned, poorly organized, poorly thought out initiative, let's just say. And I think part of it is, the White House has not been doing a very good job, again, based on the sources I'm talking to, laying this out for these state senators, for these state representatives. They have not sent them or shown them a proposed map. There isn't a clear talking point on the justification for redrawing these districts. Indiana is a state that has a lot of problems. We've got people who can't afford to buy groceries. We've got housing prices that are skyrocketing. And what this feels like to me is our Republican leaders, and Mike Braun is the number one example of that, who are focused on solving their problems, not ours.
Well, even more to the point, solving Donald Trump's problems.
Well, I think they're worried that Donald Trump's problems will become their problem, right? Or if they don't solve that problem, that they will end up having more problems. But I also think, our state legislature is designed so the senators are only up every 4 years. And so out of those 50 senators, 40 are Republicans. And, a large percentage of those are not up next year. And I think some of them are making the bet that in 3 years, this is not going to be an animating issue for people, and certainly not for the president at that point. So I think that's part of it. And frankly, that's a good thing. The system was designed, for that to be the case. But I also think, when you talk to these legislators privately, they didn't have any problem with the maps in Indiana. There are not enough Republicans, frankly, for them to be pulling some out of the more Republican districts and shoving them into the Democratic ones right now. And so I think they recognize that redrawing the maps, not only is it a political loser for them, our polling showed that 53% of Hoosiers were against it, only 34% supported it. And even the Republican support was pretty soft. So the Republicans that we polled, 90% of them had a favorable opinion of Donald Trump. Only 59% of them said they supported redistricting. There's a 31% gap there. And so this is just not an issue that people think is something that the legislature should do. Again, Braun is talking like he's going to call the special session anyway. And behind closed doors, we hear that is most likely going to happen. And I think it's because they think, well, once this becomes, no longer theoretical, maybe some of these folks will feel a little bit more heat. But that's a big gamble to take, especially at a time when, according to our polling, there's not a lot of support for Republicans in general, and certainly not a lot of support for the governor.
Guys, remember, like, share, subscribe. This, all right. This is why we do independent journalism. We got double independent today. We got independent Indiana, and independent journalism. 24 site news. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure we're getting the word out there. Well, okay. So clearly, we have to do a follow up now because
There is a
we're
national angle, Tom, to what's
we
happening
have
in Indiana. Absolutely.
shocked, I say. A lot of folks don't know this, and if you're not from the heartland, it's easy to miss it. And I think there's a lot of folks that like it that way. Indiana has all this, as as we say here, it punches above its weight. All these wild stories out of the heartland, all kinds of incredible weirdness happening too. Who's the one that the Fox News guy that got drunk and got in a fight with the truck driver just recently down in Indy?
Oh,
Oh
it's a
my,
Fox Sports
yes,
commentator, Mark Sanchez, former
that's it.
USC quarterback, former New York Jets butt fumbler, Mark Sanchez.
Just bonkers. I was on with Dan Spieler for this week's In Focus, and we were talking a little bit
Yeah.
about
Will
it
you tell
afterwards.
him to put me on, by the way? I think I'd be good on that show.
I will. I'll drop a note. I'll tell them that that you found a way onto these secret phone calls. That seems like the way to do it. We were talking about this because Loftmiller's where what's his name ran into after getting stabbed in defense, right, by the 69-year-old truck
Yeah. You're
driver.
talking about Mark Sanchez, yes.
Yeah, he ran into Loftmiller's right across the street from the State House, bleeding all over the place, and there's, like, blood on the glass, blood on the windows still for days afterwards. Just incredible. People don't know how interesting Indiana is. Well, we're here to fix that, okay? From Mad Anthony all the way down to bloody Mark Sanchez.
There's
We
always
have
news in Indiana. That's
That's right,
true.
baby. We haven't even talked about Ursay. Stories there. Okay, Nathan, where can we find you? Where can we catch up with Independent Indiana?
So you can follow us on Twitter. It's Indie Indiana. So you just have to search it. It's INDPE Indiana. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Independent Indiana, but also just go to our website, independentindiana.org. You'll learn a lot more about us there. And would also encourage you, like I said, to check out either the podcast or the video of our event that we had in Indianapolis a few weeks ago to get a sense of who these independents are. Again, it's not the stereotypical sort of gadflies that have run as independents in the past. Now, these are the regular folks. These are the folks in the tradition of Richard Lugar or an Evan Bayh who are not willing to compromise their values in order to serve the people of their communities.
Wow. Right on. Nathan, dude, thank you so much for being here, man. And yeah, we're going to be coming back on redistricting again soon. We have to. This is yet another battle in the heartland, which this could change. All right, let's put the Crossroads of America. That is Indiana. I know they changed the sign. That doesn't change the name. Okay. Crossroads of America. This could determine what plays out for the next 2 years. All right, in the last 2 years of Trump's term. All right, because even picking up just a few seats, this redistricting battle, it could change the trajectory of the country. And this is huge. This is really big. Nathan, thanks, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
All right, man. Hey, guys, before we get out of here, we're going to do this real quick. Coming up next week, we're going to have Ken Vogel from the New York Times. He's got a great new book about corruption, foreign influence, and the fall of Rudy Giuliani, who I believe still owes a good bit of money to some election workers he defamed and had people pushing death threats on. They had to hire security. Ken's got a great new book out, so we're going to be talking with him. Very excited for that. Drop a line, Tom at 24site.news. You can always catch us here every day, Monday through Friday, live at noon. And the Encore Political Voices Network. You know what, guys? It is. I started saying this when the White House went after Jimmy Kimmel. And the strangest of things, I'm 43, so I grew up with in middle school and high school uh, with Jimmy Kimmel co-host of the Man Show. All right, that's my mentality of who Jimmy Kimmel is. Well, now elder statesman. So I started saying this after this because it's important. That's why I do this here, and it help support us here. Help support me, support Ian. 24 Site News. I started this almost 2 years ago now because I don't want to be under the thumb of any politician. I just don't. That's why I do journalism. It's why I do reporting. It's the First Amendment of the United States of America. This is the bedrock of our democracy, which is still revolutionary 250 years later. So I started using this tagline. I'm still sharpening it up, and I say it because it's how I feel. I like being here, guys. I like doing this every day, and I'm honored to have you here, Jeannie, Lindsay, Gina Weller. Welcome. It's awesome to see you. Let me just do a quick one here from Jeannie. I love Jeannie. George Carlin said about the rich and corrupt government, quote, "It's a small club and you ain't in it." Oh man, ain't that the truth? Dear God. If the AI is going to be channeling celebrities, all right, could they please channel Carlin? All right. Man, if we're going to resurrect anybody, let's oh man, we need Carlin right now. So this is why it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. And it's a privilege to be here with you. I enjoy this. But it's our right. And it is our right as Americans. I'm so happy to exercise that right with you every day. Democracy is a muscle. And the more we use it, the more we make sure a bunch of goose stepping jackasses don't take it away from us. I'm Tom LoBianco, out for the weekend. If you're going down to the No Kings protest, stay safe, guys. Don't let the instigators get you riled up. Don't, if okay, so some of you are going to bike naked. Don't tell me about it. All right, go for the frog costume. Wear yellow. Stay safe. All right, guys. We'll see you on Monday.